Dear students, in today's class, we will discuss the topic of Module 4, that is starters used for AC motors. So here in this today's class, we will discuss for star delta starter belonging to the Module 4 topic. So here we will see star delta starter. Okay. Now let us see the circuit diagram for the star delta first. So this is the circuit diagram for star delta starter. Okay. So this is circuit diagram for star delta starter, where you can observe this is the squirrel cage rotor, and these are the induction motor stator winding, and this is the rotor part. And to this stator we are going to connect star delta starter. So stator windings, they are connected with the star delta starter. So during starting condition induction motor, it is supplied with start connection voltage, and during running condition the TPST switch, it is made to throw on the other side, where during running condition the stator will receive the voltage connected in delta position. So what is this star and delta connection, how it is going to operate the induction motor? Now let us see. Okay, so this is star delta starter circuit diagram. Hope you can observe here. So this is the rotor of the induction motor, and these are the stator windings. So this stator winding, it is supplied with uh, input three phase AC supply voltage. At the time of starting, it is going to be connected with star system. Star means this is the star system, where voltage is getting reduced by 1 by root 3 times. Per phase voltage will be reduced by 1 by root 3 times. So because of the reduction in the voltage, we are going to control the starting current. So the main purpose of starting induction, main purpose of using the starter is to control the starting current. And during running condition, we cannot operate the induction motor all the time with the reduced voltage. So we are going to throw the switch on other side, that is in the delta position. So this throwing of the switch from star to the delta, everything it will be done automatically with the help of relays. Okay, so this is a circuit diagram. So the main necessity of the starter is what? The necessity of the starter is just to control the starting current. So if we allow induction motor directly without any starter, so it is going to draw 8 to 10 times or 15 times greater than the normal rated current. Because of that, induction motor may get damaged. So in order to avoid that huge inrush current, we are going to control the current with the help of the starter. So out of so many starters available, so here we will discuss for star delta starter. Now see the description here. This is the cheapest starter of all, and hence used very commonly for the induction motor. So this is one of the cheapest economically, and it is commonly used for controlling the starting current of three-phase induction motor. Okay, it uses a triple pole double throw, that is TPDT switch, as I have shown you. So in this case of star delta starter, it is going to make use of TPDT switch. So this is the TPDT switch. So this is TPDT switch. So during running condition, it will be in the delta position, and in the starting condition, it will be in the star connection. Okay. Now the switch connects the stator winding in star at start, as I have told you. So here stator windings. So these are the stator windings 1, 2, and 3, or otherwise RYB. These stator windings, it is connected to the supply lines. It is connected to the three-phase supply lines. At the time of starting, these stator windings, they are connected in star position. So it is connected in star position with the help of TPDT switch. Okay, and then the switch connects the stator winding in star at start, hence per phase voltage gets reduced by the factor 1 by root 3. So we know that in the star system, phase voltage is VPH is equal to VL by root 3. So by connecting the induction motor at the time of starting in star connection, so line voltage is getting reduced by 1 by root 3 times. So we are going to reduce the voltage at the time of starting. So if we reduce the voltage at the time of starting, proportionally we are going to control the current. We are going to reduce the current also. This is the major advantage why we are going to start induction motor in star connection at the time of starting, because only at the time of starting current will be more, so that current has to be controlled. So if I want to control that current, if I want to reduce that current, I should reduce the voltage. So reducing the voltage is nothing but what? Connecting the induction motor stator winding in star connection. In star, phase voltage is 1 by root 3 times of line voltage. So here line voltage is getting reduced by 1 by root 3 times. Because of this reduced voltage, we are getting reduced current. So controlled current we are going to inject into the induction motor, which is safe enough to carry by that induction motor. Okay, due to this reduced voltage, starting current is limited. So here we are going to control the current. So because of that, starting current is limited. Okay, when the switch is thrown on the other side, the winding gets connected in delta across the supply, so it gets normal rated voltage. The windings are connected in delta when motor gathers sufficient speed. So once starting current is controlled at the time of starting by connecting in the star connection, then with the help of the same TPDT switch, it is made to throw on the other side. On the other side, during running condition, during running condition means when motor pickups or gathers sufficient speed, then TPDT switch is thrown onto the other side, that is 1, 2, 3. So here during running condition, stator windings, they are going to get the supply voltage which are connected in delta fashion. In delta fashion, line voltage is equal to phase voltage. So if it is getting sufficient voltage at the time of running condition, so motor is working perfectly. This is the reason why we connect induction motor in star at the beginning, just to control the current. And once it is going to pick up the normal speed, then the switch is made to TPDT switch is made to thrown on the delta position during running condition, so that it will get sufficient voltage and it can operate properly. When the switch is thrown on the other side, the winding gets connected in delta across the supply, so it gets normal rated voltage. The windings are given in are connected in delta when motor gathers sufficient speed. So all the time we cannot apply reduced 1 by root 3 times line voltage. So once it is going to control the starting current, then the switch is made to be thrown on the other side, that is in delta position. So in delta connection, we know that line voltage is equal to phase voltage. So we are going to get normal voltage which can be applied for the induction motor, and it can operate satisfactorily. Okay, the arrangement of star delta starter is shown in figure 5.3.5. So this is the circuit diagram for star delta starter, what you are supposed to draw. Okay, from this point till to this. So this is the rotor of the induction motor. This is the stator of the induction motor, where stator is supplied with three-phase AC supply. In the beginning, with the help of TPDT switch, it will be getting reduced voltage with the help of star connection. That is, phase voltage is equal to 1 by root 3 times of line voltage. Once it is going to pick up normal speed, then with the help of TPDT switch, it is thrown onto the other side, which is connected in delta fashion during normal running conditions. So it will be getting normal rated voltage and motor can work satisfactorily. So all this throwing of the switch from star to delta during starting and during normal running condition, this will be taken care automatically with the help of relays. It will be taken care automatically with the help of the relays. Okay, the operation of the switch can be automatic. Here you can see that the operation of the switch can be automatic by using relays, which ensures that motor will not start with the switch in running position. So relays are so intelligent that it will always allow the induction motor to start in uh, star connection only. It will not allow induction motor to run in delta position. So this throwing of the TPDT switch from starting to the normal running condition means from star to delta, it will be taken care automatically with the help of the relays. Okay, the cheapest of all and maintenance free operation are the two important advantages of the starter. So since it is economically cheaper in cost and also it is having less maintenance, so maintenance free operation, so these are the two important advantages of the star delta starter. So its cost is less and also it is having maintenance free operation. Okay, while its limitations are, it is suitable for normal delta connected motors, and the factor by which voltage changes is 1 by root 3 times, which cannot be changed. But the disadvantage part of star delta starter is this can be used only for delta connected induction motors only. Okay, this cannot be used for star connected induction motor. It is limited for controlling starting current of only delta connected induction motor. And also here we are going to reduce the voltage just 1 by root 3 times. If I want the voltage less than 1 by root 3 times, then it is not possible. So these are the disadvantage part of star delta starter. So first you need to explain all this explanation related to the star delta starter from here to this point. After that, you need to draw the circuit diagram for three-phase, what is this, star delta starter. And now after that, you need to write the ratio of starting torque to full load torque. So how torque is getting affected? So the starting torque TST upon TFL. So ratio of starting torque to the full load torque, it is given by x square into ISC upon IFL square into SF. So here how the torque is getting reduced. You can see that here x is the factor by which voltage is getting reduced. Okay, so here x is the factor by which voltage is then reduced. So here in this case, at the time of starting, voltage is getting reduced by 1 by root 3 times. So here we are going to substitute the value of x as 1 by root 3. So if I substitute the value of x as 1 by root 3, then the ratio of starting torque to the full load torque is 1 by 3 times of short circuit current upon full load current whole square into slip, that is SF. Okay, so here you can see that here ISC is the starting current phase and delta connection with rated voltage, and IFL is what? Full load current, full load phase current when delta connection. So now here in this case, the starting torque to full load torque is getting reduced by 1 by 3 times. Okay, so here if I put x value as 1 by root 3, that is voltage reduction factor, then starting torque to full load torque is given by the factor 1 by 3 times of ISC upon IFL whole square into SF, where ISC is nothing but starting phase current. This is not short circuit current, don't get confused. So this is the starting phase current when delta connection with rated voltage. Okay, so if I apply the normal rated voltage, then starting current will be very high. So that starting current, if I want to reduce, then we need to reduce the voltage. Then we need to reduce the voltage. So therefore, x is equal to 1 by root 3. We are going to get if starting current, if the starter is connected in star fashion, and IFL is what? This is the full load phase current when connected in delta fashion. Okay, so this is all about what is that? Star delta starter. So explain for all this theory part. Then you draw this circuit diagram for star delta starter. Then you write the expression for starting torque to full load torque by denoting what the notations for ISC and IFL. So till to this point, you need to explain for star delta starter. Okay. And now again we will discuss for the same fourth module, speed controlling methods. So in the fourth module, it is comprising of different types of starters, different speed controlling methods. Okay, and also then we are going to see what is that different types of single phase induction motors. Okay, so here the next topic here we are going to study here is speed control of induction motor. So there are different methods to control the speed of the induction motor. Out of that, the method here what we are discussing is supply frequency control, or V by F control. So V by F control, or else it is also called as voltage bar frequency control. So we know that speed of the induction motor is given by what? The synchronous speed. Synchronous speed of the induction motor is Ns is given by 120 F by P. This is the well-known equation where F is the frequency and P is the pole. So if I control the input supply frequency, then we are going to control the speed. Okay. Thus, by controlling the supply frequency smoothly, the synchronous speed can be controlled over a wide range. So if we control frequency F, then we can control the synchronous speed. Okay, this gives smooth speed control of an induction motor. Okay, so if we control the frequency, then we are going to control the speed here, which will give us smooth speed control. But there are certain drawbacks or the problems associated with this. Now let us see. But the expression for the air gap flux is given by, so in between stator and rotor of the induction motor we are having air gap. So in the air gap we are going to find there is a rotation of the flux, which we call it as air gap flux, and the value of the air gap flux is given by pi g. Pi g is equal to 1 upon 4.44 K1 TPH1 into V by F. V is the voltage and F is the frequency. So here this equation is according to the EMF equation of the transformer. So this is the equation of flux in the air gap written as per the transformer EMF equation, where K1. So this K1 is not here. If it is transformer means it will be primary winding, but here if it is induction motor means here K1 is the stator winding constant. Here this is stator winding constant, and TPH1 is the stator turns per phase. So this is the flux equation for the air gap flux equation given as per the EMF equation of the transformer, 4.44 kF by TPH1. Okay, so now this K1 is the stator winding constant and TPH1 is the stator turns per phase value. Okay, so now here you can see that where V and F, V is the supply voltage and F is the supply frequency. From the same equation, this V is the supply voltage and F is the supply voltage frequency, F in hertz. And now it can be seen from this expression that if the supply frequency F is changed, the value of the air gap flux also gets affected. This may result into saturation of the stator and the rotor cores. So here in this expression, so if I change the frequency value to control the speed of the induction motor ns, so if we control frequency f, we are going to control the speed. But here if I control frequency f is inversely proportional to the flux. So if we control or tune the frequency value, then here there is a disturbance in the air gap flux value, which may cause saturation in the stator and rotor core parts, which may cause saturation of the stator and rotor core parts. This may result into saturation of the stator and rotor cores. Such a saturation leads to the sharp increase in the magnetization no load current of the motor. So that saturation may lead to the sharp increase in the no load current. So no load current of the induction motor will increase. Hence, it is necessary to maintain air gap flux constant when supply voltage F is changed. So this flux should be remained constant. Air gap flux should be remained constant. So here, whenever we are controlling the frequency in order to control the speed, care should be taken that flux should not get saturated. If it is getting saturated, then no load current is going to be increased. So in order to control the speed, we should control the flux, but make sure that flux, air gap flux should not be increased. So how this should not be increased, but this air gap flux should be maintained constant. So if I want to maintain this air gap flux constant, then what is the measure I should follow? Okay, what is the measure we should follow so that flux, air gap flux is going to remain constant? Okay, so to achieve air gap flux constant, this it can be seen from the above expression that along with frequency of supply voltage V also must be changed, so that ratio of voltage by frequency ratio constant is going to remain constant. Okay, so here not only you change the frequency, along with that you should also change to the supply voltage V. So along with frequency f, if we change the voltage, then the ratio of V by FV should change together, so that the flux, air gap flux will remain constant. So this is not going to cause saturation of the stator and rotor core parts. Because of that, no load current will not increase. So don't change only frequency alone. Along with that, you change for the supply voltage V also. So we should have variable voltage along with the variable frequency, so that air gap flux will not change, and this will remain constant. Because of that, we can get fine tuning of the speed of the fine controlling of the speed of induction motor. Okay, so now hence it is necessary to maintain air gap flux constant when supply frequency f is changed. To achieve this, it can be seen from the above expression that along with frequency f, supply voltage v also must be changed, so to keep v by f ratio constant. So this ensures constant air gap flux, giving speed control without affecting the performance of the motor. Hence, this method is called V by F control. So here, not only you change for the frequency, you should also change the supply voltage, so that ratio V by F remains constant. And if this ratio V by F is going to remain constant, then air gap flux is also going to remain constant, and we are going to get fine speed of the induction motor. So this is not going to affect to the performance of the induction motor. So we should change for both voltage as well as for the frequency. Since we are going to change for both voltage and frequency parameters here, for this sake, this method is called as what? V by F control method. We are applying variable voltage, along with that we are applying variable frequency also. Because of this reason, we call this method as V by F control. We are controlling the voltage to the input voltage to the induction motor. Also, we are going to apply the variable frequency supply. Because of that, here we are controlling voltage along with here we are applying variable voltage along with the variable frequency to the induction motor. Due to this, we call this method of controlling speed of the induction motor as V by F control. Okay, V means supply voltage, F means frequency. Okay, so how to get this variable voltage and variable frequency? Now let us see. Hence, in this method, the supply of the induction motor required is variable voltage, variable frequency. So whatever, if this is the stator of the induction motor whose speed has to be controlled, then input to this stator of the induction motor should be what? Variable frequency, variable frequency and variable voltage. So how to get this variable voltage V and variable frequency? Because this variable frequency and variable voltage will be for AC supply. So how to get this one? This can be achieved with the help of converter and inverter. Okay. Hence, in this method, the supply of the induction motor required is variable voltage and variable frequency supply, and this can be achieved by electronic scheme using converter and inverter circuitry. So, variable frequency and variable voltage to the stator of the induction motor in order to control the speed of its induction motor. Here, we are going to make use of some electronic circuitry. So, that electronic circuitry is nothing but what? Converter and inverter. Okay, the scheme is shown in the figure 5.5.1. So this is the figure 5.5.1, which is nothing but electronic scheme for variable voltage and variable frequency, that is nothing but V by F control method. So this is the block diagram. Now, the normal supply voltage is constant voltage, having constant voltage and constant frequency AC supply. So usually AC supply is having constant voltage and constant frequency. This is the constant input. Constant AC supply, or the AC supply having constant input voltage and constant frequency. So I want to convert this very constant voltage and constant frequency to variable voltage and variable frequency. So this constant AC supply we should apply it to the converter. Okay, so the normal supply voltage is constant voltage, constant supply AC, constant frequency AC supply. The converter converts this into DC supply. So now you apply AC input having constant frequency and voltage to the converter, which it is going to convert from AC to DC. Means here rectification will take place. So AC is getting converted to DC. Here this converter will do rectification. This DC supply is then given to the inverter. So after that, once again the output of the converter, which is DC, it is given back to the inverter. So what this inverter will do, it will convert DC to AC, but that AC component now it will be having variable voltage and variable frequency. The inverter is a device which converts DC supply to the variable voltage, variable frequency and supply, which is required for the V by F ratio constant. So now this inverter gives us variable voltage and variable frequency, which is required for the V by F control. So here, whatever voltage you want, whatever frequency you want, accordingly you set to the voltage and frequency, and accordingly you can control V by F ratio, and accordingly you are going to get different speeds of the induction motor. By selecting the proper frequency and maintaining V by F constant, so for different values of the frequency and by maintaining V by F ratio constant, the smooth speed control of the induction motor is possible. So by applying different voltage and frequency and setting constant value of V by F, we are going to get smooth speed control of induction motor. So here you can see the torque versus slip characteristics for different values of the frequency. So this is for the normal frequency F, and this is for the frequency F1 greater than F, and this is for the frequency F2, which is smaller than the normal frequency F. Okay, if F is a normal working frequency, then figure 5.5.2 shows the torque slip characteristics with variable and constant V by F. So this is the torque slip characteristics for different values of the frequency. For normal frequency, for F1 frequency greater than F, and this is for the F2 frequency smaller than F. Okay. Figure 5.5.2 shows the torque slip characteristics for the frequency F1 greater than F and F2 smaller than F, that is for frequency above and below the normal frequency. For above normal frequency, and this is for below normal frequency, how the torque and slip will vary. Okay, slip is nothing but what? Slip is inversely proportional to the speed. This is what the conclusion here. Okay, now what is the disadvantage of this V by F control? Let us see. Another disadvantage of this method is that when supply obtained cannot be used to supply other devices which require constant voltage. Hence, an individual scheme for a separate motor is required, which makes it costly. So here, the output, whatever it is getting from the inverter, it will be having variable voltage and variable frequency. This is used only for the speed controlling of induction motor. So such variable voltage and variable frequency you cannot apply it for the other motors, because those other motors they want constant input like constant voltage and constant frequency. So whatever variable voltage and variable frequency AC supply we are getting from this inverter, this is not suitable for the other motors which require constant AC voltage and constant frequency. So in order to convert that from variable to the constant supply, once again you are going to make use of some AC, some electronic circuitry, which makes altogether costlier. So that makes us the scheme costlier. Okay, so here you can see that another disadvantage of this method is that supply obtained from the inverter cannot be used to supply other devices which require constant voltage. Hence, an individual scheme for a separate motor is required, for which it makes costly. So whatever output we are getting from the inverter, that is having variable and frequency and variable voltage, this is used only for controlling the speed of the induction motor, and this cannot be used for other motors which require constant AC supply and voltage. So this is all about speed control of induction motor using V by F control. So if the question is asked like explain the speed control of induction motor using V by F control or supply frequency control, then you should start to explain from this point, or explain for all these equations and theory part, and then explain for all this theory part. Then you draw this block diagram. This is very important. Then associated block diagram explanation is this one. All this is the associated explanation for this block diagram. Then you sketch the slip characteristics for normal frequency, for frequency f1 greater than f, for frequency f2 smaller than f. So these are the slip characteristics, and all this explanation is given here. And finally you write the disadvantages of V by F control. So that disadvantage is what? Whatever output we are getting from the inverter, it is having variable supply frequency and voltage, which cannot be used for other motors which require constant voltage and constant AC supply frequency. Okay, so this is all about speed control of induction motor using using V by F controller supply frequency control method. Okay, now let us see the next topic of same module 4. So this concept is once again module 4 concept only. Now this is coming under in single phase induction motor. So after studying three phase induction motor starter and speed controlling method, now we will see single phase induction motor. So here the other name, single phase induction motor, it is having certain drawback, that is it cannot be started. It is having on its own, it is having certain problem while starting. So that problem is due to some reason. So that is nothing but double revolving field theory. So this is one of the important question which will be asked repeatedly in the final VT exam. Hope you can see how many number of times this question is asked. The question is asked like explain why single phase induction motors are not self-starting, or they may ask explain double revolving field theory. So this is the concept related to the module 4 single phase induction motor. It is called as double revolving field theory. Because of this double revolving field theory, single phase induction motors are not self starting. Now let us see why they are not self starting. Okay, description for this is, um, what you can do is first you can draw for this diagram. If you want, you can draw for this diagram which is going to represent the flux for different position at theta equal to 0 degree, at theta equal to 90 degree, and how the variation of the flux will be there with respect to the time angular, with respect to the time domain. This you can write in the beginning, and then you can explain for these diagrams. Okay, see here the explanation for this is, according to according to this double revolving field theory, any alternating quantity can be resolved into two rotating components which rotates in opposite direction, and each having magnitude as half of the maximum magnitude of the alternating quantity. So according to this double revolving field theory, what is that? AC component, it is having two components. So those two components, one will act in the both they will act opposite to each other but equal in magnitude. So both they will rotate in the opposite direction and having magnitude half of the resultant. They are having the magnitude half of the resultant. Suppose uh, this resultant is pi 1m. Pi 1m is the flux of the is the stator flux. Then this pi 1m stator flux, which is AC component, it is divided into two components. That is forward component. It is divided into two components, pi f and pi b. It is divided into two components, pi f and pi b, where this pi f is half of pi 1m. Similarly, pi b is also this, where this pi f forward flux, it is half of the resultant flux, half of the resultant stator flux, that is half of pi 1m. 1 stands for stator flux, maximum stator flux. Similarly, the backward flux, pi b. So backward flux, this is also half of the, this is also half of the pi b. So this is also half of the pi 1m. So the resultant stator flux, which is AC in nature, it is divided into two components. It is divided into two components. You can see here. It is divided into two components. Okay, so one is forward component and there is backward component. So this forward component, it is having half the magnitude of the pi 1m. Similarly, backward, it is having half the magnitude of pi 1m. So if I add pi f and pi b, then I'm going to get resultant, that is half of pi 1m, half of pi 1m. It is resultant pi 1m, which is divided to two components, forward and backward flux. Okay, according to this theory, any alternating component can be resolved into two components which rotate in opposite direction and each having magnitude as half of the magnitude of the alternating quantity. In this case of single phase induction motors, so in case of single phase induction motors, the stator winding produces an alternating magnetic field having maximum magnitude of pi 1m. So in case of single phase induction motor, it's a stator of the single phase induction motor, it is going to produce the flux that is pi 1m. It is going to produce maximum stator flux pi 1m. According to the double revolving field theory, consider the two components of the stator flux. So now this stator flux pi 1m, it is having two components, each having magnitude of the magnitude half of the maximum magnitude of the stator flux. So this pi 1m, it is divided into two components, that is forward flux and backward flux, and this forward flux, it is half of the pi 1m. Similarly, backward flux is also half of the pi 1m, each having magnitude half of the maximum magnitude of the stator flux, that is pi 1m by 2, that is pi 1m by 2. Okay, both these components are rotating in opposite directions. So both these what is that components, they are rotating in opposite direction at the synchronous speed. So they are rotating at the opposite direction, that way at the synchronous speed ns, because flux given by the stator, it is always rotating in the air gap with a synchronous speed ns. Okay, which is dependent on frequency and stator pulse, because ns is equal to 120 f by p. So this speed is dependent on stator and stator pulse and frequency. Okay, let pi f is forward component rotating in anti-clockwise direction. So now the stator flux, which is divided to two components, that is forward and backward components. So this forward component flux of the stator, it is rotating in anti-clockwise direction. So it is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. Okay, while backward flux pi b, that is backward component, rotating in the clockwise direction. So whereas the backward flux component of the stator, it is rotating in the clockwise direction. So backward flux is rotating in clockwise direction, whereas forward flux is rotating in anti-clockwise direction. The resultant of these two components at any given instant gives the instantaneous value of the stator flux at that instant. So resultant of these two is the original stator of the flux. So now if we take the resultant of forward and backward flux, then this gives us resultant instantaneous value of the uh, stator flux at that instant of time. So resultant of these two flux, pi f forward component, which is rotating with the speed of ns in the anti-clockwise direction, and backward component pi b, it is rotating in the clockwise direction. So the resultant of these two fluxes, forward flux and backward flux, they will be having what, their resultant will give us resultant of the instantaneous stator flux at that instant of time. Okay, in the figure 6.4.1 shows the stator flux and its two components pi f and pi b. At start, both the components are shown opposite to each other in the figure 6.4.1a. Thus, the resultant pi r is equal to 0. So now let us see this figure 6.4.1a. So this is figure 6.4.1, representing stator flux, which is divided into two components. So this is the figure 6.4.1a, where and the stator flux is divided into two components. This is the forward flux pi f and this is the backward flux pi b, where pi b, it is rotating in clockwise direction and pi f, it is rotating in anti-clockwise direction. The resultant of these two fluxes, the resultant of these the resultant of these two fluxes is what? You can see that backward flux is in clockwise direction, then for forward flux it is in the anti-clockwise direction, then the resultant of these two is in interaction of these two fluxes will give us resultant of the main flux, stator flux at that instant of time. So that is nothing but the original flux. Original flux here, pi f equal to pi b equal to half of pi 1m. It is half of pi 1m. Okay. And here at this position, resultant flux pi r equal to 0, because this is pi b, it is in the clockwise direction, and this is pi f, it is in the anti-clockwise direction. Both are equal and equal and opposite to each other. So because of that, the interaction of these two will give us resultant flux as pi r as 0. Resultant flux pi r will be 0 Fn for theta equal to 0 degree for this position. Okay. Figure 6.4.1 shows the stator flux and its two components, pi f and pi b. At start, both the components are shown opposite to each other in the figure 6.4.1a. Thus, the resultant pi r equal to 0. This is nothing but the instantaneous value of the stator at start. Okay, so when theta equal to 0, at the time of starting, the resultant stator flux is 0, because the stator flux, which is divided into two components, forward and backward flux, both they are equal in magnitude but opposite to each other. Because of that, net available resultant flux pi r is 0 when theta equal to 0 at the time of starting of the single phase induction motor. Okay, this is nothing but instantaneous value of the stator flux at start at the time of starting. After some time, after 90 degree, as shown in figure 6.4.1b, the two components are rotated in such a way that both are pointing in the same direction. Hence, the resultant flux pi r is algebraic sum of the magnitudes of the two components. So, pi r is equal to pi 1 m by 2 plus pi 1 m by 2. So, if I add half of pi 1 m plus half of pi 1 m, then it will be simply pi 1 m. So, this is the maximum flux what we can get when theta equal to 90 degree. This is nothing but the instantaneous value of the stator flux at theta equal to 90 degree as shown in figure 6.4.1c. Thus, continuous rotation of the two components gives the original alternator stator flux. So now, after some time when theta equal to 90 degree, now pi b it will attain to this position and pi f it will attain to this position. Then at theta equal to 90 degree, if we take the resultant of these two, then we are going to get what? Then we are going to get maximum flux, that is half of pi 1m plus half of pi 1m. Therefore, it gives us resultant flux which is maximum, that is pi 1m. Here you can see the resultant flux when theta equal to 0 degree. Theta equal to 0 degree means when single phase induction motor is starting, at that period of time flux is 0. For this position, when flux is 0, pi r equal to 0, this is the first point. When theta equal to 90 degree, where pi 1 m where pi f and pi b both are resting at 90 degree position, then flux will be maximum, because pi 1 m by 2 plus pi 1 m by 2, then it gives us pi 1 m, which is nothing but this is the maximum flux for theta equal to 90 degree. For theta equal to 0 degree, resultant flux is 0. So this is for theta equal to 0 degree where stator flux is 0, and this is theta equal to 90 degree where uh, resultant flux pi 1 m by 2 plus pi 1 m by 2, that is equal to pi 1 m. So this is the maximum flux what we are going to get when theta equal to 90 degree, and this is minimum flux when theta equal to 0 degree. For 0 degree, this is the stator flux position, and for theta equal to 90 degree, we are going to get maximum flux, the pi 1 m. Pi 1 m means it is half of pi 1 m plus half of pi 1 m, that is equal to maximum stator flux pi 1 m. Okay, this is the figure indicating stator flux with respect to the time domain. Okay, and now, thus continuous rotation of the two components gives the original alternating stator current, stator flux. Okay, both the components are rotating and hence get cut by the rotor conductors. So this is pi 1 m means this is the stator flux. So stator flux, as it travels from the air gap then to the rotor, then this stator flux it will be traveling in the air gap with a speed ns equal to 120 f by p. Then by that time rotor it will this flux is made to be cut by the rotor conductors. So when rotor conductors, if they are rotating and if they are going to cut to the flux, then you can observe there will be some generating action. Okay, so because of that, what will happen now, let us see. Both the components are rotating and hence cut by the rotor conductors. Due to the flux cutting, then generating action will take place. Generating action means what? EMF, or the voltage gets induced in the rotor, which circulates rotor current. We know that rotor is short circuited on both the sides. Because of that, it is having a closed path. Because of that, if stator flux is made to be cut by the rotor conductors via the air gap, then EMF gets induced in the rotor, voltage is available in the rotor. Once again, this voltage, what it will do, rotor voltage, it will cause rotor current to flow. It will circulate rotor current. Now, the rotor current, once again, they are going to produce its own flux. Already stator flux pi 1 m is available. After having generating action like EMF, rotor EMF is getting induced, rotor current will start to flow. Once again, those rotor current, it will produce a rotor flux. Now there will be two fluxes, the one flux which is because of the stator, and the other flux is because of the rotor. Now this flux interacts with the forward component pi f. So now rotor flux is also available. So now stator flux, which is divided into two components, that is forward and backward component, the rotor flux, it will interact with the part of the stator flux, that is part of the part of the stator flux, means forward component flux. So these two fluxes will interact with each other. Then it will produce what? The torque, which is in the anti-clockwise direction. When two fluxes will interact with each other, then we are going to get the torque. So rotor torque, it will react with the forward component stator torque. Because of that, we are going to get the torque in the anti-clockwise direction. While the same rotor, once again, it is going to react with the other remaining stator flux, that is backward flux, which is going to produce the torque. Now that torque, it will be in the clockwise direction. So therefore we are going to get the two torques. The torque one, which is in the anti-clockwise direction, which is because of the interaction of the rotor torque with the forward component of the stator flux, and the other torque is because of interaction of the rotor flux with the stator backward flux, which is going to give us the torque in the clockwise direction. So there will be two torques available, one acting in the anti-clockwise direction and other acting in the clockwise direction. Both are equal in magnitude but opposite to each other. Suppose one minus 5 Newton meter, minus 5 Newton meter, and another will be plus 5 Newton meter. So plus 5 Newton meter and minus 5 Newton meter, then the resultant will be what? At the time of starting, both will be 0. So hence torque is 0, force is 0. If force is 0 at the time of starting, then induction motor will not rotate. So induction motor fails to start. Okay. While rotor flux interacts with the backward component pi b to produce a torque in the clockwise direction. So if anti-clockwise torque is positive, then if anti-clockwise torque is positive, then clockwise torque is negative. So here anti-clockwise torque is positive, whereas clockwise torque is negative. So both they are equal and opposite to each other. Because of that, net effect is 0. Net effect is 0 at the time of starting. At start, these two torques are equal in magnitude but opposite in each other. Each torque tries to rotate the rotor in its own direction. So the one torque, it may allow the induction motor to rotate in the anti-clockwise direction. The other torque, it will allow the motor to rotate in the clockwise direction. So interaction of both these two, it will not make the induction motor to rotate in any other direction, because here both the torques are having equal and opposite direction, equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So therefore induction single phase induction motor fails to start at the time of induction motor, at the time of starting of the induction motor. Okay, thus the net torque experienced by the rotor of the single phase induction motor is 0 at the time of starting, and hence single phase induction motors are not self starting. So here this is the main reason. Because of the double revolving theory, here we have proved that why single phase induction motors are not self starting. The main reason is that there will be two torques, one will be acting in clockwise direction, means other will be acting in uh, clockwise direction. Both are having equal and opposite magnitudes. Because of that, the torque experienced by the motor, the net force experienced by the motor is 0. Because of that, single phase induction motors, it will not start on its own at the time of starting. Because of that, we call single phase induction motors as they are not self starting. Okay, they are not self starting. Okay, after explaining for all this, then you should draw the torque speed characteristics. Now let us see the top speed characteristics of single phase induction motor. So this is figure 6.4.2 indicating torque speed characteristics. The two oppositely directed torques and the resultant torque can be shown effectively with the help of torque speed characteristics as shown in figure 6.4.2. So this is figure 6.4.2 indicating torque speed characteristics. So this upper dotted torque speed characteristics, this is for the forward torque, this is forward torque TF, and this below dotted line, this is the torque speed characteristics that is given by the backward torque. And the interaction of the forward and backward torque is the this dark middle line, which is nothing but the resultant of the uh, forward and backward torque, where you can observe at the time of starting induction of the induction motor, torque is zero. At the time of starting, the net effect of the net effect because of forward and backward torque at the time of starting, torque is zero. If torque is zero, then motor fails to run, then speed of the induction motor n will be equal to zero. Okay, it can be seen that at start n equal to 0, at the time of starting resultant torque is 0. So single phase induction motors are not self starting. So in order to explain this double revolving field theory with all these diagrams and explanation, with all these diagrams and explanation, from here you should start to explain the explanation part. Then you should draw these diagrams and you should explain for all this. Then finally you should draw the torque speed characteristics showing forward torque and backward torque, and net torque, where net torque indicating at the time of starting torque is 0, so speed is 0. So because of this, self starting property is not having for the single phase induction motors. So single phase induction motors are not self starting, they are not self starting. Okay. However, if the rotor is given an initial rotation in any direction, the resultant average torque increases in the direction in which rotor is initially started, and the motor starts rotating in that direction. But in practice, it is not possible to give initial torque to rotor externally. Here, hence some modification are done in the construction of single phase induction motors to make them self-starting. So, already we came to know that single phase induction motors, they are not self-starting at the time of starting. So if we make the induction motor to if we apply certain external torque either in forward or in backward direction, so whatever the direction force we are going to apply, in that direction it is going to move. But practically it is not possible to give the external additional torque either in forward either in the forward or in the backward direction. So to make the induction motor self-starting, we need to make certain modification in the construction so that we can get additional torque so that it can start on its own. So in order to give some additional torque so that single phase induction motor can start on its own, so there will be some modification we should give. So what are those modifications and all, we can see in the different types of induction single phase induction motor, which we call it as uh, capacitor start capacitor induction motor. So that capacitor, what it will do, it will give initial torque so that single phase induction motor can be made to start on its own. The best example is the ceiling fan, which is nothing but the single phase induction motor. That ceiling fan, it will be having the capacitor. So that capacitor, along with improving the power factor, it is also going to provide the initial torque so that the ceiling fan can be made to rotate. So this is the major advantage of using capacitor in the ceiling fan. So that capacitor, what it will do, it will provide the initial torque so that the fan, which is nothing but the single phase induction motor, can be made to rotate on its own at the time of starting. So if the question is asked like double revolving field theory, it will be for a 6 to 8 marks question in the final VT exam. Then what you can do is you can start to explain from this point. All this theory you should write. This theory you should write this flux distribution at theta equal to 0 degree, 90 degree, and resultant stator flux with respect to the time. And after that, you should also draw this torque speed characteristics, torque speed characteristics for forward and backward torque. And this is the resultant torque, where at n equal to 0, theta is at speed at the time of starting, speed is 0 and torque is 0. Because of that, because of this, single phase induction motors, they are not self starting. And even if we want to start induction motors with the self starting property, we should apply certain external torque, which is not possible to apply externally. Some modification for that, we need to make some modifications while constructing the single phase induction motor, so that single phase induction motors can be made to be start on its own. Okay, so these are all the uh, topics what I have discussed today in this class related to the module 4. So those are nothing but types of starter, that is starter data starter and speed controlling method, that is V by F control, followed by that single phase induction motors double revolving field theory. So get prepared for all these questions. So all these are important questions which will be asked in the final VTU exam. Okay.